I'm so excited to introduce you to our very special guest of today. And she's here with us on the other side of my screen. Her name is Dr. Eseza Nambassi. And for the attentive listener of the show, you would recognize her face because she's been in the show earlier this year, beginning of July. Hi, Dr. Nambassi.
Hi there.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for agreeing to talk to us again. I really love what you are all about. And I'm going to give you a little bit more time to also introduce yourself. But let me do my part. And last time we spoke about health is everyone's right and their responsibility. And this year at Sensitive Midwifery and Sister Lillian Center, we've really been diving into taking our health and well-being into our own hands. Especially living in a pandemic, I think lots of people have become more aware of it, how important it is, and how much we actually can take the responsibility back into our own hands. And then I also ask you to come on board and talk a bit more about hormonal health, which is today's topic, because we are often getting questions on our platforms what to do with infertility, and I know and you know that there's actually so much more to hormonal health for our entire well-being, so I thought you would be a wonderful person to talk about it. So just for all the listeners out there that doesn't know Dr. Eseza Nambassi yet, she's a wife of a Dr. Nambassi who is actually an obstetrician and a gynecologist. She's also a mother and a grandmother. She is a doctor by trade. She graduated from medical school back in 1985 and really focused much of her career on HIV and is passionate about the role of lifestyle, especially nutrition, on health or disease outcomes. And then now she's developed her own platform, and it's called simplyhealthier.co.za. I want you to really look into that website. And she's moved into a space where she's, I think, wanting to not need doctors anymore so much, right? we are in a cycle of too many diseases that are unnecessary and that we should break. We should break that cycle of chronic diseases. So she's all about empowerment of families, especially youngsters as well, youth. She's passionate about that we can break the cycle of just chronic diseases and so forth. So Dr. Eseza is the real deal, and I feel honored and privileged to have you here with me again. Maybe you also want to say something about yourself before I start diving into the topic of today?
Thank you so much, Margaret. You've actually introduced me fully.
Mm-hmm.
I am, I'll start at the end, a grandmother. I'm so proud of that fact. And a mother. But my children are now adults and independent. And so perhaps I'm suffering a little bit from the empty nest syndrome,
Mm-hmm.
which is one of the things that can mess up hormones. But be that as it may, I'm full of joy, and I live in Durban. And today's weather in Durban is amazingly wet and cloudy and overcast. So I'm so full of joy to be speaking on your show. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. All right, so let's just get started. Today's topic was hormonal health, and why is it such a big deal, and what is disturbing our hormonal health. So, but before we talk about that, just tell us a little bit, what are hormones and why are they so important?
Okay. The description of hormones is that they are biochemical components of our constitution. That sounds like a long definition that I've sort of had to think of. But they are made in glands. So we call the whole system the endocrine system, or the glandular system if you want, because they are specific parts of the body called glands, or the endocrine system, that create these biochemical components, and they generally act in another part of the body or throughout the body. I'll take an example. Thyroid hormones. The thyroid hormones are important for metabolism of each and every cell in our body. In other words, they conduct how our body's cells will work. That's an example of a hormone. And there are many, many, many hormones. But the key here is to understand one thing, and this is what I like to always point out, that they're very much like dominoes. Okay, if you stack up dominoes and then you disrupt just one hormone, I'll give an example of one that is very, very, very often disrupted, and that is insulin. Insulin, produced in our pancreas, is supposed to go everywhere and make sure that the food we eat is assimilated properly by the cells. Now, if insulin is disrupted, even on a minute-by-minute basis, that has a knock-on effect on all the other hormones. And yeah, that is an example. But yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Let me just get back in there. Thank you for that explanation of hormones and how important they are, and also pointing out that it's a domino effect. So if one hormone is out of balance, it has an effect on everything else. So what happens in our body, for example, if we are out of balance, and how can we pick it up? How do we know that hormones are out of balance?
We will feel symptoms. And the symptoms can vary, and they're vast. There's so many. And on top of that, they're individualized. But because they are symptoms, our tendency is to want to stop those symptoms from disturbing us. Let's say, it's like having something that is bugging you, and your instinct is to try and stop it. Big mistake. Because, you see, the body speaks to us by giving us those signs and the symptoms. Okay? That is the body speaking to us. So, hormonal disturbance can manifest in so many different ways. And the manifestations can be so individual that they might not even be one magic bullet to address it. Okay? So with that foundation, it can manifest as moodiness or anxiety and depression, or it can manifest as aches and pains everywhere if there is a hormonal imbalance, or it might ultimately end up with severe osteoporosis or osteoarthritis. It could end up as an autoimmune disease. And then that is now bringing in the role of the immune system and the linkage with the hormonal system. We can never separate the two. So there's so many ways it can manifest, but for purposes of this chat, we have to remember the sex hormones. Very, very important. In women, we have, all sex hormones are in everybody, or are supposed to be playing a role in everybody, men and women. Just that we women have more estrogen and progesterone, and the men tend to have a greater amount of testosterone. But the balance is what creates our different gender. So, hormones, the sex hormones, are impacted by whatever else is going on. I'll give a good example. Stress. Yeah. We've all been through some manner of stress in one way or another. And that is mediated by hormones again. What do you know? Cortisol, adrenaline, noradrenaline, the thyroid hormones, obviously. And so if those ones are perpetually elevated, the stress hormones, they can cause drainage or dysfunction of the sex hormones. And that can result in various manifestations that I'm sure we can discuss. Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you for that. So I want us to indeed dive a little bit deeper in the sex hormones and really into women's health. I think more women are having some sort of imbalances that they might be aware of, right? So how are women mostly affected by these imbalances? You did say. Let's unpack it a little bit. I know, for example, estrogen. If you can have estrogen dominance, what are the effects in our body when that goes out of balance?
Okay, estrogen dominance is actually quite an interesting topic because of the way it is very, very common. And unfortunately, it is something that in the medical profession we haven't paid enough attention to. So let me just unpack the possible causes of estrogen dominance. And top on my particular list is the role of xenoestrogens. Okay, what are those? Well, xenoestrogens are, as the word xeno means, foreign estrogens. They're not natural to us. They don't belong in our bodies. So what they do is they come and sit on the estrogen receptors. And by the way, the estrogen receptors are on virtually all the cells in our body. They might not be as many, for example, in the brain or wherever, but they sit on those estrogen receptors and block natural estrogens from actually accessing those cells. So estrogens from outside, you can think of contraceptives that have estrogen in them that are made synthetically. You can think of estrogen-like products like phthalates. Phthalates are plasticizers that are used in plastics, in detergents, in beauty care, lotions and things. You can think of byproducts of petroleum. We are all always exposed to the fumes of petroleum. Those are, estrogens.
Sure.
So there are various places that we find these, estrogens. And now they've become part of our day-to-day life, our modern living of today. And all of us can look around and see their effect. Because if you understand the role of estrogen, it is to cause growth, okay? And that's why the level goes up in women who are pregnant, because it is causing growth of a baby. But then if it causes the wrong type of growth, you'll get effects like obesity and overweight. You might get effects like the development of cancer, or you might get the effect of endometriosis, where the endometrial tissue grows uncontrollably and affects other organs that it shouldn't be affecting. So yeah, xenoestrogens, big time. That is a big challenge.
Yeah.
But carry on. I just wanted to say, I've discovered something that boggled my mind, that part of the estrogen dominance is actually the result of progesterone deficiency. There is that imbalance where it is relative, so that there is relatively more estrogen as a result of imbalance of the deficiency of progesterone. I found that very, very interesting. Now, progesterone, on the other hand, is a hormone that helps with, just as the word says, progest, all right? Gestation, pregnancy. Okay? So the hormone that promotes pregnancy can be deficient, and because of the relativity I hope this is all making sense. I'm even trying to hear it myself to see if it makes sense to me. The relativity of all those xenoestrogens really drowning out progesterone, there's a relative deficiency or an actual deficiency of progesterone, and therefore that can lead to no promotion of gestation. In other words, infertility. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think I'm following you. So it is again about having the right amount of hormones that work hand in hand with each other. So yes. On the one hand, you can have estrogen being too little or too much, and I want to unpack that a little bit. Those estrogens are very that's a key one. So what disturbs our progesterone levels then? So you can also have too little or too much progesterone, and that affects the estrogen levels. Am I understanding you right?
Yes, you are. Okay, progesterone is by and large in women produced by the follicle once the ovum is released, right? And that happens during the reproductive years. For the audience, I am so used to expressing myself with my hands. I hope it's not causing you not to listen to what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. But anyway, here goes. So once somebody is in the reproductive age and they're menstruating and hopefully releasing an ovum, that's the egg from the ovaries, then the follicle continues to produce that progesterone. But in the 30s and 40s, in the pre-menopausal years, production of that progesterone begins to diminish, to wane. Okay? So that can lead to a relative or an actual deficiency in progesterone. Now, as that happens, the body was made in such a way that ideally the adrenals pick up that role and start producing the progesterone, so that if everything is in balance, the lady is not severely stressed and is well nourished and is exercising and can actually support that function of the adrenals to continue the role of producing the progesterone, then they would be balanced. But as we said at the very beginning, imbalances happen when there are issues such as severe stress. Now, modern lifestyle, let's just look at modern lifestyle. Yeah. Isn't it stressful?
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. Would you like to ask?
No, I'm with you all the way. Let's just take it indeed on why are we as women in our current day and age so at risk for these hormonal imbalances and therefore all the effects of it. I mean, when you were talking about estrogen being the growth hormone and all those growths and things that can go wrong, that's quite significant. And I think lots of women actually say, hey, yes, that's me. I also know fibroids, you didn't mention it, but that's also linked to high levels of estrogen. Lots of women have it. Also very tender breasts. Lots of women have that. So those are really... I think so often as women now, we've just sort of learned to live with it. It's like, okay, that's just what it is to be a woman. But actually, we should not take it like that. We should think, hey, why am I feeling like this and what is out of balance? So I really wanted to create that awareness. And then you've also mentioned quite serious things like how we are so much exposed to xenoestrogen. And how we actually need to make a little bit of war against those, isn't it? So how can we approach this in our modern lifestyle? How can we make our hormonal health happen? Give us your goods.
Wow, it's a broad topic, but the first thing is perhaps to seek knowledge, to become just more conscious create awareness, and I believe that's what you and I are doing right now. And then look for those places where xenoestrogens are, and also see how you can eliminate xenoestrogens as much as possible. Not always easy, but it is possible, so that your body gets a lower inflow or deluge, if I can call it that, of those xenoestrogens. Now, to do that, we can spend quite a lot of time discussing that, but I just want to move on to the next thing, that when that is done, also, it's important to ensure that the body's detoxification mechanisms are working optimally. Now, I've just brought in another concept, and oh boy, you're saying, sure, how many concepts are we going to take in today? Well, I did tell you, I did warn that all these things are interconnected. And just picture this. You go for a huge orchestral festival, okay? Let me not even call it just one show, but a festival. It's going to last for a long, long time. And in that orchestra, the instruments have to be well tuned, on beat, the rhythm is correct, the volume is correct, for there to be a beautiful sound from this symphony orchestra. And because it's a festival over several days or months, it has to be always on point. Otherwise, just one bad day can cause the whole orchestra to be thrown out of sorts. That's the same analogy that I'm using for our bodies. Our bodies. So it isn't a case of I'm going to do something for just today and tomorrow, and then I'll go back to my bad habits of craving sugars. That is one of the hallmarks of hormonal imbalance. I'll go back to not exercising. I'll go back to just eating exactly as I want, so that it doesn't matter if I gain those kilos. That sets us up. That sets each one of us up for a lifetime of hormonal imbalance. So what am I saying? I'm just actually saying that, yeah, after you've sought knowledge, what is the word? Implement that knowledge. Not easy, but it isn't impossible either. It's really not impossible. It depends on your commitment to yourself about your wellness. And then you'll say, okay, I'm going to implement things a little bit at a time. I'm going to make these changes. I'm going to work out what is xenoestrogen in my detergents, and I'm going to look for better detergents. I'm going to look at my personal care, and I'm going to change that. I'm going to look at my food, because a lot of xenoestrogens are hidden in highly processed foods. So, for example, if you're eating a lot of those processed meats and polonies and things like that, you might want to change that. And here's a point that you'll be interested in. You know, crops and foods like yams, okay, yams, the ones that we, madumbe, the ones that we think are for those rural people out there, are very rich in phytosterols, which actually help the body to create some progesterone. So it is natural progesterone supplementation from the diet, which you will not get if you are living on pies and cool drink and, you know, all those fast foods. So the point of this is that we may need to go back to the intelligence of our ancestral diets and balance our hormones that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you bring that up, because sometimes women might feel overwhelmed, like you need to have a lot of money to be healthy, or, but I always also say that, like, hey, how did your grandparents used to live? And maybe you should go back to that. They lived off the land, they had clean eating. Our modern lifestyle hasn't benefited us, and I'm so grateful that we're becoming aware of that, of the threats of it, and that there are really easy ways to tackle this issue. So I like that yam. I don't know yam. Is it like where can we get that in South Africa?
Yams, madumbe. Do you know madumbe?
No.
They're root vegetables, and other root vegetables as well. Sweet potato, beetroot, other indigenous foods as well. They're very rich in sterols, phytosterols, that
Wonderful.
help to bolster progesterone and the natural estrogens as well.
Right. And then you also spoke about eliminating toxins and xenoestrogen from your products that you use at home. That can also be a thing like, oops, but then I need to buy this organic, expensive stuff to clean my home. I'm sure you've got like a cheaper solution for that too.
Yes, I do. I do. And what I might have to do is put my contacts out there and get people to contact me so that I can show them how to access them. The non-phthalate containing, non-toxic cleaning products. They are available. It's just that you need to know about them, and I'm willing to share that information. And otherwise, you can make your own, but do you have the time for that?
Yeah, no, exactly. So there's definitely ways, and one can research it, but it doesn't have to be expensive. I think in the end of the day, you'll probably save money instead of what we buy. So wonderful. And then another important thing I think that we unaware of is what we put on our body. On our face, makeup, all sorts of products. What is the big deal about that?
Okay, a lot of products have a lot of things that we really do not want in our bodies. I understand that a lot of foundation is lead-based, full of lead, and a lot of other toxins, right? Now, that causes quite a lot of toxicity, which impacts the liver and other detox mechanisms. Now, if you can picture this, lots of toxins, and then the liver is overwhelmed. It says, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do here because I'm not functioning very well. Then the liver, which is charged with breaking down the hormones, cannot do that effectively. So these hormones stick around. Whatever hormones they are, all of them, stress hormones, estrogens, the wrong xenoestrogens as well cannot be gotten rid of. Then on top of that, if the diet is such that the gut is not working well, now I'm bringing in the gut. That's one of the topics that
topic for another day.
Fascinates me. Yes,
very important.
Yeah. So if the gut is not functioning very well, then the gut is one of those places where if we are happy and it is happy and the bacteria that live there are very, very happy, they will make us the right hormones. They will help us with the elimination, or it will make vitamins as well. For example, the B vitamins, a lot of them are actually made by the bacteria in our gut. And the whole orchestra that I described will be happy and functioning well. But if now elimination and detoxification mechanisms are stuck, they're overwhelmed because of all those additional things that we do to ourselves, like the lead-based foundations, as one example, or the phthalate-laden skin creams and washing powders, then there'll be hormonal imbalance and a lot of disease, which you won't see immediately. It takes almost a lifetime or a tradition to create that kind of setup.
Yeah, I think that is why we get away with quite a lot, because our bodies are incredible in coping mechanisms. But that is also where those chronic diseases kick in, right? And chronic problems. And that is exactly what we try to address here. Those things, we want to break the cycle, and it's by being aware. I have found, Dr. Eseza, I don't know if it's also you, that the age has just gone younger and younger that the bodies start packing up. Like, because I think it has just become more and more intense on our youth, the toxic overload and the bad lifestyle. So then eventually your body just gives up. You start experiencing really bad sicknesses in any form it manifests. And I found that it's getting younger and younger, so that is why this is not just a feel good talk like, oh, let's try to stay young forever or whatever. It's so important. It is an attack on our next generations even, that are maybe unaware of all of this. And as mothers, as healthcare workers, we can't stay ignorant of all of this. So I think that is a bit of urgency that I have on this topic, and that you are also actively an activist to bring that awareness. So we can go into many details, but I think for now it's good to just bring those awareness, and also for people that want to actively get involved, actively engaging on your personal health, is to give them some tips and how to go about it, because sometimes it can be just very overwhelming, and it helps if someone says, this is what you're going to do step 1, this is what you're going to do step 2. Where can people find you? Because I know you are a health coach and you have different ways of helping people in this regard. How can people find you? How do you do this in your daily life?
Okay, let me start with my newest baby, which is my online radio.
Yes, very exciting.
Simply Health Radio. I'd love people to be tuning in. It's still a baby, let me call it that. But what I do is I prepare a topic and have a short broadcast. So far it's once a week, but I'm going to see if I can do it more often. And the aim of that one is not so much to lecture anybody, but more to get people to think. And so I have a hashtag called Ask Why. Okay? Ask Why, which means always seek knowledge. What hurts you? Or what harms you? And find out what heals you even, the why. And I just want to get people thinking how they can take greater responsibility, because it is so tempting to say, I've got this symptom, I will take it to the doctor and present it to the doctor, and the doctor is going to sort out this symptom. Why do you have that symptom is what I keep on asking.
Right.
So that is my radio station. It can be found on www.simplyhealthier.co.za, and right in the middle of on the home page, on the menu, is a tab which says radio. Then if you want to hear what has been played in the past, below that are podcasts of previous recordings. So, and then you can call me. I'm actually looking to work with particularly women who would love to manage their weight or manage their hormonal imbalance and haven't quite figured out the link between, for example, cravings and the weight and the recurrent what we call urinary tract infections or vaginal thrush, for which they're getting antibiotics all the time.
Oh, no.
So I just want to make those connections in their mind that, hey, you need to break the cycle somewhere. And I think you said it, Margaret, at the beginning, that we need to start breaking a few of these cycles that have got people on a downward spiral with their health.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm available to chat and to show people the way. As regards my health coaching programs, I would like to get people who want to engage with me, basically for me to hold them responsible to their own goals. So we discuss the goal that they want to achieve, and then I hold them responsible, and we just hold each other accountable by communicating over the period of time that we decide and for a fee that we decide. I've got some packages.
Wonderful. Right, we will put all your contact details, your website in the show notes as well for people that listening later, and that they can reach out to you, because accountability and someone to walk with you goes a long way. That motivation and that guidance, that is just what we need. And I'm really excited to see a growing body of women taking responsibility of their health, and that it becomes a culture that we cultivate with one another. That you don't always feel like you're the only one out or you're this healthy person, but it becomes the new norm. Like, I'm quite known to be a health conscious person, so then I would get the stamp like, you're so healthy, and it's like, this is normal. That it's not healthy, this is normal. So we just need to find our new normal again, and then it becomes a culture, and we will all benefit. And I think women are such key, because we feed our families, we feed our, we set the tone for the next generation. So yeah, if we can start with women being so much more knowledgeable and aware of this, it will filter through the whole society. I've got a cat that wants to jump on my laptop here.
I also must point out that it isn't exclusively for women that I want to talk to and to engage with, but for the men as well, because a lot of men do have hormonal imbalances that they won't recognize as such, but they're there. They actually impact them quite dramatically.
Yeah.
And so on that one, I've been saying one of my visions for our nation is to have healthier men so that we can have a wealthier nation.
I love that.
Yeah. Too many men leave their health until the last minute when a stroke or a heart attack has happened, which is tragic.
No, it is.
Yeah. And for women as well, those things tend to happen after menopause, where again we need to make sure that we can avoid those kinds of tragedies, because after menopause, that's when life should be beginning, not ending.
Absolutely.
One should be feeling really happy and full of joy to perhaps pursue what they've always dreamt of, now that the children have grown up and
Yeah, wonderful. I'm glad that you're also passionate about reaching men. Obviously, on our platform, since the Lillian Center, Sensitive and Midwifery, our predominant audience is women. So that's for, but absolutely go for it. I really want to thank you for what you are doing. And I feel we're so much on a similar mission in that regard. I will put up all your information in the show notes so people can find you, and I really want to wish you all the best with your venture, and let's see, getting a wealthy and a healthy future for the next generations and for ourselves.
Yeah. Well, thank you very, very much. I've enjoyed this conversation with you, Margaret, and I look forward to more of these, and I look forward to other presenters on your show. I usually tune in and
lovely. Wonderful. Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll see you next. We'll get you in again.
Thank you.
Okay.
That would be lovely.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Hope you are encouraged and empowered to take responsibility for your own health and really to get the balance in those hormones. We are our hormones, and as women we really need that, know that. But yeah, we want you to be the best version of yourself, and there's so much that you can do about that. So that was us for today. We will see you for our next live show next week. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye.